Okay, we have a comment, a direct question. Got even better than the academics.
Well, I think, first of all, the case of Malawi has really been a phenomenal case of improvement in food availability. As you may know, the access to modern seed and to contemporary farming techniques has dramatically improved the availability of corn in Malawi. Malawi has really been one of the success stories in agricultural development. So, yes, before people can afford to buy commercially made food products, they have to have enough money. And so we are bringing down the price point of our products, as I mentioned, trying to develop cheaper and cheaper versions that are still nutritionally superior. But if people are not in the cash economy, they obviously cannot buy it. However, I will have to say about the Maggie Cube, we reach in West Africa just about anybody who's in the cash economy because of the very low cost of the Maggie Cube and because it's so commonly used. We estimate that about 70% of the population is consuming Maggie Cubes, and when you see the number of 19 billion being sold every year in West Africa, we are reaching really pretty far down in the income range.
Could you give the microphone to Patrick? We have to leave the room at the quarter to the hour, and two of my speakers have to go to other sessions. So I'm going to give both Marie and Patrick to reflect on the body of questions that were floated timidly by, and see what you have to say in a synthesis of the responses from the room.
Okay. I agree. We absolutely have to be worried about those in dire need, the extreme cases of undernutrition. At the same time, I think we should recognize that we, the international and national communities, are doing better than ever at keeping people alive. We're actually doing better than ever at addressing severe acute malnutrition and addressing the most severe cases of micronutrient deficiency diseases. It's interesting that in 2008, for the first time, the UN consolidated appeals process. The mechanism for launching emergency relief appeals started including appeals in response to the price rise, the price crisis, not natural disaster, not conflict, but price crisis became accepted and responded to. But I want to point out that the more we are effective at saving lives, the more we also need to be effective at addressing the moderate and mild conditions that become a reservoir of future severe cases when the next crisis arises. So it's not just about addressing the most extreme, but also those who are much larger in number just below. But I also would respond to the point about assumptions. I think it's very important that we do look more closely at what we're measuring. There's very little good empirical information globally about actual consumption of what people really eat, not disappearance of food baskets or national level supply, but actual consumption. There's very little information about labor markets and wage rates for the very poor, rural as well as urban, which are one of the major sources of income and hence underpinning expenditure. So I think we do need to look more closely at this access dimension. And then finally, assumptions again about what people need. I am worried about the rapid implementation of short-term safety net responses like a rice subsidy for 3 months, which protects for just 3 months and then is removed. And there have been many such interventions around the world that can be very costly, but whether that is the most appropriate response or what happens immediately afterwards is actually poorly considered. Tim Geithner in the US has raised the issue of moral hazard in the context of bailouts of banks, and the large financial institutions has been saying, well, you know, we've gone through this and now future banks can no longer assume the government will respond in the same kind of way. The economic term is moral hazard. There's a real concern that many of the more humanitarian organizations are moving in that direction too, and many of the social sectors in national governments are pulling the rug out at exactly the wrong moment from people who still need long-term access to appropriate safety nets.
Yes, I really have to go. But I wanted to say quickly that I agree that we are a little bit stupid, as you were saying. And where I think we are is that we still haven't done anything about getting a system organized to actually get data, to have some kind of monitoring, global monitoring systems, global nutrition surveillance. We are being asked constantly, and we ourselves, we're trying to say, has malnutrition increased? Is food insecurity greater? We think so, yes, no, maybe. There's a little bit of rapid appraisals here and there that have been done by WFP, for example. Those are great. But we just don't know what the picture is, and we're waiting for I don't know what to set up a system or not, or to just see all of a sudden that it's a real disaster. Nutrition takes a while to react. It may be that we didn't have an immediate impact, but that in 10 years from now we'll have a state of real disaster. So I'm very surprised by how passive, and that includes me too, but how very passive the nutrition community has been on that. And we've had a meeting in Washington. The IOM organized a meeting. We talked about nutrition surveillance. I asked the question, okay, so how do we organize ourselves? How do we set it up? Who's going to fund that? And there was no answer. It was one of those questions that nobody addressed, and we're still not doing anything. So maybe we can talk about it a little bit more this week.
Let's have a round of applause for our speakers. And in closing, we have a week ahead of us. This is the first level of sessions that are participatory and of a analytical nature. Don't be passive and speak out. Those were two of the words in the last. We only have this week, so in sessions, do not be there as sheep, but as shepherds. Shepherds for your own satisfaction and for your own welfare. So I hope that those of you who did not raise your hands will be at the microphones clawing each other to speak out in the next sessions. And thank you very much.